Good morning. Can I tell you something I've been thinking about? After 34 years of marriage and more than 40 years with the same man, I've learned something that took me a long time to understand. Sometimes the most dangerous season in a marriage isn't when two people are arguing. Sometimes it's when one person quietly stops asking. That may not sound dangerous. In fact, from the outside, it can look like everything is finally peaceful. The arguments have stopped, the questions have stopped, the tension seems to have disappeared, but sometimes what looks like peace is actually exhaustion. I don't believe most wives wake up one morning and decide to stop talking. I think something happens much more slowly than that. They ask, they wait, they hope, they try again. They rehearse conversations in their minds before they ever say them out loud. They wonder if tonight is the right night. Then they decide to wait until tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes next week. Next week becomes next month. Eventually they begin asking themselves a question. What's the point? Not because they've stopped loving their husband, because they're tired of feeling like they don't know how to reach him. I think that's one of the loneliest places a wife can find herself. Not angry, not bitter, just tired. Tired of carrying thoughts she doesn't know how to explain. Tired of wondering if she's asking for too much. Tired of questioning whether she's the problem. And here's what I've learned. The silence didn't begin the day she stopped asking. The silence began long before that. It began in little moments. A conversation that never happened. A hug that became routine instead of intentional. A distracted I'm listening when the phone had more attention than she did. A moment when she needed comfort but only received a solution. None of those moments by themselves usually damage a marriage, but over time, they begin telling a story that says, maybe my heart isn't being heard. I want to pause here because this is important. I'm not saying husbands don't care. I'm not saying wives are always right. I'm saying something much simpler. Two good people can slowly lose emotional connection while sincerely trying to build a good life. Life has a way of demanding our attention. Work, children, grandchildren, doctor's appointments, bills, home repairs, church responsibilities, family obligations. None of those things are wrong. In fact, many of them are blessings. But blessings can still become distractions if we're not careful. One day you look around and realize you've become excellent partners in managing life, but you haven't slowed down long enough to notice each other's hearts. That's when a wife can begin asking herself questions she never wanted to ask. Does he still enjoy talking to me? Does he still notice me when I walk into the room? Would he miss me? Or would he only miss everything I do? Those are painful questions. And most wives never say them out loud, not because they aren't real, because they're afraid of the answer. After all these years with Jake, I've learned that underneath many spoken questions lies an unspoken fear. The words we hear are often only the surface. The heart is usually saying something much deeper. A wife may say, "You never talk to me anymore." But her heart may be saying, "I miss my best friend." She may say, "You're always busy." But underneath those words may be, "I miss feeling important to you." She may ask, "Do you still love me?" When what she really longs to know is, "Do I still matter to you?" There's a difference. Love can exist. Commitment can exist. Faithfulness can exist. And yet a wife can still wonder whether she's truly seen. That's why I believe one of the greatest gifts we can give our spouse isn't the perfect answer. It's the confidence that their heart is safe with us. Safe enough to tell the truth, safe enough to admit they're struggling, safe enough to say, "I miss us." I don't believe that's weakness. I believe that's courage. Because every lasting marriage will eventually enter seasons where two people have to intentionally find each other again. Not because they fell out of love. Because life became louder than the relationship, and when that happens, the answer isn't usually a bigger vacation or a more expensive anniversary or the perfect words. Sometimes the answer begins with one quiet conversation, one spouse looking at the other and saying, "Help me understand what you've been carrying." Those 5 words have the power to open a door that months of assumptions could never unlock, because every person wants to feel understood, not analyzed, not corrected, not dismissed, understood. That's where healing often begins. I'm Donna, and this is Still Standing with Donna. My mission is to help husbands and wives understand each other so they can stay in sync through every season of marriage, because after 34 years with Jake, I've learned something I'll never forget. This is a season, not a sentence. Now, I'd like to gently speak to the husbands for a moment. If you're listening today, I want you to hear my heart. This isn't about blame, it's about understanding. One thing living with Jake for more than 40 years has taught me is that many husbands don't realize when emotional distance begins. Not because they don't love their wives, but because distance usually doesn't announce itself. It doesn't walk into the room and say, "Your marriage is changing." It happens quietly. A husband keeps working hard because that's one of the ways he shows love. He makes sure the bills are paid. He fixes what needs fixing. He carries responsibilities that no one else may even notice. And from his perspective, he's loving his family well. Meanwhile, his wife isn't questioning his work ethic. She's missing his attention. She's missing the conversations that had nothing to do with schedules. She's missing laughing together for no reason. She's missing feeling like he enjoys simply being with her. Do you see how easy it is for 2 people to love each other and still misunderstand each other? That's why I believe understanding is one of the greatest acts of love. Not because it solves every problem, because it reminds your spouse, "I'm still trying to know your heart." Over the years, I've learned that marriages don't usually become roommates overnight. They become roommates one ordinary day at a time, one missed conversation, one postponed date night, one "I'm too tired," one distraction after another, until eventually neither person remembers exactly when they stopped sharing their hearts. And here's something I wish someone had told me when I was a young wife. Never assume your spouse knows what your silence means. Silence speaks, but it doesn't always speak clearly. Sometimes a husband thinks she must be okay because she hasn't said anything. Meanwhile, she's thinking, "I've already said it so many times that I don't know what else to say." That's why assumptions can quietly damage a marriage. We begin responding to stories we've created in our own minds instead of responding to the person sitting beside us. One of the healthiest questions a husband or wife can ask is simply, "Help me understand." Not "help me defend myself," not "help me prove I'm right," just "help me understand." Those 4 words invite honesty. They lower defenses. They remind your spouse they're safe. And safety is where intimacy begins again. Now let me speak to the wives for just a moment. Please don't lose hope if you're in one of these seasons. A quiet season doesn't always mean a hopeless season. Sometimes it simply means 2 people have become buried beneath the responsibilities of life. Sometimes what's needed isn't a perfect marriage. It's 2 people willing to become curious about each other again. Ask questions you haven't asked in years. Sit together without an agenda. Put the phones down. Look at each other. Really look. Not to see what's wrong, but to remember who's sitting across from you. After all these years with Jake, I can tell you this. The greatest moments in our marriage weren't always the biggest moments. Many of them were the quiet ones. Conversations no one else remembers, prayers we whispered together, laughing over something that probably wasn't funny to anyone else, holding hands through seasons that neither one of us would have chosen. Those ordinary moments quietly became the foundation of an extraordinary marriage. And that's why I want to leave you with this thought. Don't wait until your marriage is in crisis to become curious about each other's hearts. Don't wait until someone says, "I don't think I can do this anymore." Don't wait until the silence becomes normal. Choose today Ask one question. How's your heart? Then be willing to listen longer than you talk. Because sometimes the greatest gift we give our spouse isn't our opinion, it's our presence. I'm Donna, and this is Still Standing with Donna, helping husbands and wives understand each other so they can stay in sync through every season of marriage. Because this is a season, not a sentence. Before we leave today, can I ask you to think about something, not something your spouse needs to do, something for your own heart? When was the last time you felt truly known by your spouse? Not loved? Known. There's a difference. Love says, I made a commitment. Being known says, I still want to discover who you are. After all these years with Jake, I've realized we're still changing. The man I married at the beginning of our marriage isn't exactly the same man sitting across from me today. Life has changed him, cancer changed him, retirement changed him, time changed him, and if he's changed, then I've changed too. That means if we're going to stay close, we have to keep learning each other. We have to stay curious. We have to keep asking, what are you carrying these days? What have you been thinking about? What has God been teaching you? What have I missed? Those aren't questions for newlyweds. Those are questions for people who want to stay connected for a lifetime. Maybe that's why the Bible says we're to know one another and love one another. Knowing takes time. It takes listening. It takes paying attention. And it never really ends. So before you end today, before you pick up your phone again, before you move on to everything else waiting for you, take one quiet moment. Look at your spouse, not at what needs to be done, not at what still needs to be fixed. Just look at the person you've been given to love. You may discover there's still so much more to know. And I believe marriages stay alive when two people never stop learning each other's hearts. Thank you for spending these few minutes with me. I'll see you next time. And remember, this is a season, not a sentence.